I hate it here so much. I had a full elaborate intro that I was planning on doing about like the rematch of Fnatic versus C9, the first time we've seen them in a best of since 2018 where they met in the semifinals. After game 3, I just don't feel like it. I went back and forth this morning with Marnie on Twitter, which for those that don't know, he's a really good guy, part of the LCS media crew. And rightfully, my wording on my tweet this morning wasn't great, but my point that I feel is there still remains in that we just got diffed in the same ways that we always get diffed, which is just annoying to deal with. Let's go back to game 1. Half awake me wakes up at 7 in the morning to watch through the series, not just the highlights, but legitimately like watch through the games, speed through the times where like nothing is happening, but then get to the action, like pause it real quick, see what's going on. And Fudge gets absurdly ahead in game 1 to the point where the game should be over, period. But if you've watched any 100 Thieves games, or if you remember I think it was 100 Thieves TL series and LCS playoffs where Doublelift goes like 4-0 to start the game within like the first 5 or 6 minutes, and it took us an uncomfortable amount of time to close out the game. This exact same thing happened here. And the second I saw that, second it came, like PTSD kicked in, it was like, oh man, I know where this is going. Your inability to close out a series like that, where Fudge is even more ahead than Doublelift was. You gotta be scared. I think it was a Zale on cast that said like, oh, we have no wave clear. And then I get that point. It's like playing into an Azir Sivir comp, but then the point is that you draft champions that allow you to dive on top of them so that anytime they try and hit the wave, you kill them. And it just seemed like we just let them walk up to waves and kill them and did nothing to really contest there, which extended the game out to almost 40 minutes despite how absurdly far ahead we were, which is just unbelievable. That it's like you knew it could potentially be problems the second we got into games 2 and 3, and game 2 was exactly that. I don't mind 5th pick Renekton, like, that's ultimately fine, but the problem is when you look at their comp, they have the Zeri, they have scaling on their side if we don't do anything, because quite frankly, I think at an even state, as was shown last game, I think they stand a chance. They nearly stood a chance when they were down a lot of gold and Fudge was absurdly ahead. So in an even state, you get this feeling that, yeah, Fnatic's probably going to be ahead. Once again, Cloud9 gets the chance early to get ahead and has some good plays and are proactive. But just the moment it comes down to a crucial mid-game fight, you just know they're going to get hands diffed, or somebody's going to die early, or like we even had a lead in mid lane with the Cassante into the Syndra. Eminez actually played game 2 incredibly well from that point of view, but we just could not do anything. You allow Zeri to go untouched in the backline for such a long period of time. What do you think was going to happen? And game 3, Jesus Christ. I don't have to say much about Sven. Really don't. But that game was atrocious. He played well in the first 2 games, so I don't want to like fully say that this is a bad series from him. But game 3, like, he lost us that game. No questions asked. Well, Eminez, we'll get into that in a second. Sven was the perfect example of what I said earlier, of just like every time that we're in somewhat of a decent position, it feels like somebody gets caught out early, like just before a fight, and throws away any tempo and positioning that we have, and then we're just sitting there on the back foot trying to fight into 4v5 or a disadvantageous position, which by all means, kudos to us that we clawed it back a little bit and even had leads in portions of game 3. But you just make it so much harder on yourself every time. As for Eminez, I get the LeBlanc 5th pick. I mean, it just seemed like a Eminez champion in that situation, which fine. That's perfectly okay if you're going into it and you know that the LeBlanc is going to be able to win the lane, get ahead, and make sure that Silas can't become that annoying front line that he is every single time we get to mid and late game. And guess what happened? It's exactly what happened. Other than like the obviously egregious int from Zen in game 3, there wasn't anybody that played like outright horrible throughout the entire series, but there also wasn't anybody that played outright great. Berserker never really got the chance to play in most of these games. The Kaisa in game 2 wasn't really able to do much, and Xayah in game 1 was nice, but it was mostly like Fudge getting ahead. In game 3, again, Zen died before team fights, so they never were going in on an even state. And, you know, Xayah, sorry about your luck, but you don't have enough time to win those in 4v5s. I'm going to edit the first portion of this video while I'm on the train and then come back with my thoughts on the players and Cloud9 season as a whole. I want to see how I said that first portion to see if there's anything that I missed and go from there. I feel pretty good about how I said that, barring one thing that I just want to wrap up with. Despite having obviously an amalgamation of like issues between various individuals at various different points in the series, Fnatic was simply the better team. They fought better, they planned better, and played better around the condition that they wanted for themselves to win. We did not do that, and we lost. So no excuses, no like individual specific flame on this series. It's just we got beat by a better team on the day. Better team overall, period. Not trying to just say they won today and wouldn't win again. Because from what I saw from C9 at this tournament, no, they were not winning again. Now, because we are on the same day as the time that the players lost, I am not going to talk about like roster moves, roster changes, who needs to be dropped, etc. The C9 fan base has already done so much of that, even before the tournament started, that I don't feel right doing it, and it just feels like an insult to the players. But if there's one group of people that does need to be called out, and rightfully so after a moment like this, it is coaching and management again. In a month, you fully expect teams to work on their issues, to improve them, and yes, they might over-index in certain areas and then have problems elsewhere. That's fine. That is an overcorrection of things, but it shows that you put in the time and the work, and you spent that month effectively doing what you wanted to do and trying to fix your flaws, even if that opens up additional problems. But it was the exact same shit from C9 that we saw in the later half of the season and in playoffs in their loss to NRG. The same problems that they were exploited for there, we had no answers. And when that happens, the first group, the first person you have to look towards is management and coaching. Our drafts throughout Worlds from C9 were pitiful. This series, not as bad. We gave ourselves clear win cons and couldn't win around it. But you look at the best of ones that they played, and oh my god, was it atrocious. And I look at that and I just say, okay, what's going on here? Is there a clear limitation on the player side that coaches just are willing to go so far away from what should be picked in that moment? Because it's hard for me to believe that, assuming all these professionals do have like decent hands, because I know they do, we've seen that at times. Why don't you pick the Poppy? Why don't you pick the Lee Sin? Why are these champions not popping up? Are players truly overriding drafts to the point where that's not happening? Or does the coach not have a strong enough foot to put it down and say, no, you're gonna fucking learn this champion and play this champion. Otherwise, you know, it is what it is. You had a full month and we had holes that big in draft? Come on. For all this talk about the C9 systems that continuously exist and supposedly made them like the best organization in North America, those systems crumble at the end of every year, every single time. So it's not working, and I don't want to hear another thing about it. If Monte Cristo is right that every LCS team is blowing up this offseason due to cost restructuring, then I'd imagine it's going to hit C9 as well, even if they have restructured deals over the last few years with some of their star players. I'd imagine changes are coming for them as well, and we have no clue what this team will end up looking like. But if there's one thing I just want to see, is just I want to see adaptability and versatility from the players, from the staff, from everybody. I want to see us continuously evolve as the year goes on, not like every other LCS team, like every year, collapse at the end, and then we're just sitting here in this pit of despair, not sure what to do and not sure how to fix all of this. We are now relying on NRG to win one of their final two series. They could either beat G2 and outright qualify, or get a draw against somebody and beat them there in the 2-2 matchup to move on. I'm legitimately scared of Saturday and Sunday for that reason. This is going to be the ugliest offseason if NRG loses 2 straight series to not qualify. People are going to be more on edge than they ever have been, more so than last year, despite the horrendous results. Like, it is going to be atrocious. So I'm praying to God the last bit of opium, the bottom of the barrel is being scraped. They have to do this. If they don't do this, we are in for just even darker times and already lie ahead. Probably no video tomorrow since there's no North American team, and I just want to give myself a day break, so I'm going to have videos on Saturday and Sunday, and then probably Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So nothing tomorrow night. Be sure to follow me on TikTok if you want to see conversations around the games tomorrow and a little bit shorter form discussions there. But that's it for me here until NRG plays. So put your name ends in the comments. We're going to need every single one of them. God bless.